Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Adam Lane with Leading Lane, and this is Leading Lane Podcast number 2 with Dr. Jared Smith featuring productive relationships. So before we get into meeting Dr. Smith, I just want to share how I met him and why I respect him and why I asked him to be on my show. Is I met him in one of Andrew Murata's writing workshops a few months ago, and then I got connected to his blogs and couldn't stop reading all of the blogs that he puts out there. They were just so helpful, so relatable, and helped me as a principal be a better leader at my school. Then a few months later, we connect again at one of Andrew Murata's writing workshops. And here he completed his own book and put it out from one workshop to the other. So amazing stuff. And I was going to purchase your book, Dr. Smith. I was going to see you at that workshop, purchase your book. But there I am as a guest on that wheel of prizes. And I was lucky enough to win your book. So I have your book here. I'm about halfway through reading the book, but I appreciate you sending it. And I do have it here. So what I want to start out with is, Dr. Smith, it's an honor to have you here. And just briefly, I want to welcome you and ask you to share who you are and what you do.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for that nice introduction there. I'm glad you're liking the book. It has been equally nice to meet you, to connect with you over social media, as well as in the workshop. What I do is, it's kind of, my day job is a school superintendent here in Central Iowa. It's been, I'm not just saying this, I really enjoy the job. It's been it's just been a great experience, great leadership experience for me. Just really grown a lot. That's what the book is about too, is like growing, about lifelong learning, about, okay, I didn't do this so well the first year. How could I do this better? So I'm in my 4th year as superintendent. Before that, I was a principal, high school principal, high school assistant principal, middle school assistant principal, teacher, all that. But outside of my day job, then I've really enjoyed kind of my side job, which is doing some podcasting like you're doing some writing, some blogging. And, one of my goals was always to just publish a book, and just kind of put my head down a couple of years ago and just started trying to pound it out. And it came out in July, and it's just been a fascinating, fun experience learning how work, writing, leading, all that kind of ties together. And it all just kind of, it just makes for a really, really fun and fascinating career.
It's awesome stuff.
Love it. Yeah, love it.
I do too. Hey, and before we dive in, I got to go with the joke of the day. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. So there's a guy sitting at the breakfast table having breakfast. His mom walks in. She says, "Oh my gosh, you're going to be late for work. You got to get going." He says, "Mom, I'm not going to work." And she says, "Why?" And he says, "Well, I'll give you 2 reasons. 1, nobody likes me. And 2, everybody picks on me." And she says, "I'm going to give you 2 reasons you're going to work. 1, you're 45, and 2, you're the principal." Not bad, though.
Yes,
not bad.
No, this is very true. That is very true, man. I agree. Not right, a lot of people like you at times. I agree.
So, it goes along with what we're going into with productive relationships, positive relationships, and the role the principal has at the school. So I want to go right into your blogs. Your blogs are amazing. I recommend people look you up and just follow some of these simple, practical tips. But obviously, I would want to work for you or with you because I know you are a productive, positive relationship guy. And that's the type of person I try to be, because it all starts there. But why is it so important to you and your mission of helping people in that area of positive, productive relationships?
Yeah, and when you ask that question, there's two different thoughts that go through my mind. One is relationships with staff, and 2 is relationship with students. So regardless, of what position you're in education, both of those are extremely important. So let's just talk about relationships with adults first. I've learned kind of the hard way. And I talk about that in the book about, I used to think, well, I'm the leader. People will do what I say. And I've got good ideas and I don't need any help. Well, I've realized that it just doesn't go that way. You've got to have strong relationships with staff in order for you to get your goals accomplished and in order for you to push your school forward. Because if they're not following you and they're not they're not engaged and really bought into what you have to say, like you're just gonna be squealing your tires there, right? In terms of students, that's one thing, quite honestly, I'm a little bit jealous of you and in your position. I'm not as around students as much as I used to be, which is very, I was at a football game last night and I felt a little disconnected to some of our kids because I just don't see them that often. But I realized that relationships are super important with students. It's just, again, you've got a huge, I was reading your bio before, you've got close to 3,000 kids in your building, right?
Correct.
You've got to those are your clients. Those are the kids you got to be buying into what you're doing. So you just got to really put in time to build those relationships.
I appreciate that. And when I look at your blogs, there's such cool entries like donut giveaways, birthday postcards, special deliveries, all staff celebrations, event staff movie appreciations. I mean, just touch base on one or two of those or just why those little things are so important.
Sure. Okay. I mean, I could talk about all of those things. Let's talk about the donut giveaways first. Yeah. I mean, I live in a pretty small town. We don't have a ton of restaurants and bakeries to choose from to give away things. But so one of my things is just to go to the local gas station and get a couple dozen donuts and find creative ways to give those away to the community. It all kind of works together. I do some things on social media. I go and show up to places and hand them out. Who doesn't like a donut? I don't care who you are. And I try to eat healthy all the time and I might not eat a whole donut, but regardless, it's just a fact of we always try to find unique ways to engage with the community and engage with our staff and our students. And the cool thing is, if I give it away to a student and I give away donuts at bus stops, right? Those students will remember that. I might not see that kid for a month, but if I see him the next time or her and I'm walking through the building, they will come up to me and say, "Hey, Dr. Smith, remember when you gave me that donut?" And it opens up a conversation. So to me, it's a very small investment, money-wise and time-wise, to make a huge impact on students.
And I agree, Dr. Smith, because that's what I'm all about. If you can create unforgettable experiences, it's amazing how students want to come to school and employees want to come to work, but because they want to experience more of those awesome experiences that you're creating. And if you don't keep it a focus to create it, it's just never going to happen because you expect it to, but it's not. So I want to dive into the book. I've shown it, the learning curve, amazing. I'm going to keep reading it. But, what was your meaning or main importance of your drive to get this book out there?
Man, that's such a good question. And actually, nobody's really asked me that. So I'm going to come up with something off the top of my head here. So, when you write the blogs, let's go back to the basics. Me and you got into education to teach people things, right? We get fired up by people learning. Hey, I learned something new today because this person shared it with me, and it's really exciting. So when I got out of the classroom and out of the principalship and now in the superintendency, I feel, again, kind of disconnected from being in the classroom and being able to teach all the time. So I found an outlet for me was writing those blog posts, which I started a couple years ago. And certainly I'm hitting a great audience by writing, by having the website just like you do, by sharing those on social media. But we know that not everybody gets all their information from the internet, from social media. So what's another medium, another way that I can share just some ideas that might help people out? Well, putting it actually into a book, printed book that they can, you can hold with you. You can take on trips. You can go, where a lot of places with it. People still, I know we thought maybe the written word would go away at some point and it would all be digital. But I tell you what, books are as strong as ever. And for me, it's just a hugely rewarding thing to pull off, to have an actual living, breathing book that people can pick up and learn from whenever they want. Excellent.
And one of my favorite sections in the book it's called the friend zone. It's on page 37. Okay. And I'm going to ask you to just talk about it briefly, but it made me think about a blog you had, and something we all go through is, as a teacher, when you see your assistant principal or your principal on Facebook or LinkedIn, do you friend them? Do you not friend them? And then as an assistant principal, a superintendent, when you see one of your teachers or employees on Facebook, do you friend them or do you stay away from it? And it's that balance of, do I go there or do I not go there? But you nailed it. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. So this has been we talk about learning, this lifelong learning, right? For the longest time, I refused let's just talk about Facebook for a minute. And Facebook, I don't know. Part of me is like, why do I waste my time on there? But we're building community. Like, as school leaders, like, we use Facebook all the time. That's where our audience is at. That's where our parents are at. So, and our staff are at. And for the longest time, I just refused to add them on Facebook. Like, they would try to add me, but I would never accept. When I became a superintendent, I had a colleague who was big on relationships, and she was an administrator, and she said, why don't you, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as you think. So I started friending, and now to be clear, they add me. I don't go and add our staff because I don't want to play favorites. I don't know. It's kind of a gray area, but I've started doing that. And I think it's one of the best things that I've done. You got to be careful. You don't want to, I mean, you're a good guy. We're both good guys. Like, I'm not going to go and post weird stuff on Facebook and get myself into trouble. But I love being able to kind of see what's going on in the lives of our staff. And again, it opens up conversations. Like, if I see they did something really cool over the weekend, or they went to this game, or they went to this concert, I'll remember those things when I see them, when I'm walking through the building, and then it'll open up a conversation. Like, who doesn't? I'm enjoying this podcast. I love talking about the things I'm doing. Our staff love talking about the things that they do, that they're important to them. So Facebook just opens up those conversations. And for any school leader who's out there who's saying we shouldn't do it, I have come around. And I think it's actually a wise investment in time and energy to learn about your staff through social media.
And I agree, Dr. Smith, I went through that process that you're going through. And my process too is if someone reaches out to you to want to friend you, I'm excited to accept you at this point because you have an interest in what I'm doing. But like you said, I'm not going to reach out to certain people or show favoritism. But if you want to be friends, let's be friends. And, just recently, the rock band Kiss was in town. I'm about 10 minutes from the amphitheater in Tampa. And a big group of us went to see it. My family went, my wife went, we all went. So I filmed everything from Detroit Rock City to Rock and Roll All Night and put it up on Facebook. And those members of my staff that are connected with me, it was cool to share the back and forth of, hey, I went and seen them back in 1990 but you don't have that unless you allow yourself to be there. So
nice. Yep. Yeah, that's stuff. Awesome, man.
But then you go into, and I'm going to combine two of my other favorites here, is don't be that boss on page 42. And no one wants to be that boss you're going to tell us about.
Yeah.
And then also, you just walked past your work on page 49. Can you kind of touch base on don't be that boss and you just walked past your work?
Yeah, man, those are two. Yeah, I really enjoyed writing those because everything. And thank you so much for highlighting these sections. It's fun sharing these things. So that don't be that boss originated from a boss who I had, who was always just too busy to listen. He just, whenever you engaged with him, it seemed like he was more preoccupied with his laptop or his cell phone than you. And I was committed from that day forward to like not be like that. And I'll be honest, like I do not have the greatest patience and I do not have I don't have the greatest attentiveness when I'm with staff, but I really try to think about, listening as best I can to our staff. And I talk all about like the meetings, the routine meetings that we have set up in our district. I meet with all of my direct reports once a week, and it's their meeting. It's not my meeting, it's their meeting, which is, again, I talk about that in the book, which I think is like probably the number one most effective practice that I do. But it ties in with the second section you talked about, which is you just walk past your work. That originated from, I have a bad habit of, I'm actually in my office right now and I'm pointing towards my secretary's desk to my right. I always have a bad habit of what's on my mind is work, work, work. I need to get in my office and start working, but I always forget that my work is really the people, right? And I can't I'm walking by my people. When I focus on the work and come in and do my laptop or make phone calls, I'm actually forgetting the real work is our employees and making sure their needs are met. So when I say you walked past your work is your employees, and don't forget that they should be your top priority.
I agree with you. And I experience that all the time because I'm the type of person, I'm out and about walking campus as much as possible. There's things that lock you down in your office, but you have in your mind you're heading to get something done. But on the way there, you pass like 17 things that probably are more important than the one thing you actually had on your list to do. So it's that balance of, do I keep going to what I originally thought at 7 a.m. I needed to do, or do I hit those 17 on the way and maybe not get there? But you do a great job locking that down. And, in the short time I've met you, the months, you're one of my go-to resources now. So I appreciate that. And what is, for the audience that's watching, what is a reference, a website, a book, something that you could just recommend to us, and we'll feature it on this podcast, to go to?
Gosh, great question. Great question. Okay, off the top of my head, you mentioned a resource, a book, a website. So, one of my favorite authors, and this is maybe going a little, maybe you weren't expecting this, but one of my favorite authors and favorite podcasters is a guy by the name of Cal Newport. Cal Newport is he's a college professor, but he really dives in deep about deep work, about meaningful work, about committing your time to the stuff that matters. He's got 3 or 4 great books that talk about productivity and, as leader, it could be anything in your life, but where do you prioritize your time, and how a lot of us get caught up in the stuff that is not important. Whether it be reading, looking at watching news or browsing social media. I mean, some of that's good, but think about how much time is wasted where you could be really making an impact either at work, with students, with staff, or in your personal life. So I love Cal Newport. Any of his books are awesome. And he's got a podcast. The reason this came to mind is the other day I listened to another one of his podcasts. And it's all about, again, how do you utilize your time to be the best you can be? So Cal Newport, one of my favorites. He's like my age. I think he's 38, 39, doing great things. I think he's a professor at Georgetown. Great stuff. You got to check him out. Definitely will.
And Dr. Smith, this is the section of the podcast where we go from leadership to the lead guitar. You ready?
All right.
We're shifting here.
Yes.
All right. So what is your go-to music? And even after that, can you dive deeper? What is your favorite go-to band and why?
This is fun because I told you before the show, I've got my podcast as well. And I want to do a music question because these are fun. Who doesn't like talking about music? Okay. And you are clearly, the music expert beyond me. I don't know if behind you is a guitar sitting there. I mean, if that doesn't scream like music buff, like I don't know, what does. So my favorite music, oh man, I like an eclectic mix, quite honestly, but this is going to sound crazy for people who have known me growing up. This is going to sound like a 180, but I'm going to go with country music. And I don't know if that is, you're nodding your head. I don't know, you being a rock guy. Yep. If you're okay with that, but I really like country music. I like the lyrics. It's stuff I can listen to at work. There's so much music you can't listen to at work these days. So a lot of us here in the office listen to country. Favorite go-to band? Oh man. Okay, call this recency bias. Huge recency bias. I went to a concert last Friday and I went to Old Dominion. And some people probably have never heard of Old Dominion, but man, what a fun show. I've been listening to their music. Their lyrics are so catchy. They're a ton of fun. I don't know. I just have really gravitated towards that band recently. Ask me a month from now, I'll probably give you a different answer. But Old Dominion, man, I saw them last week, had a great time. Love their lyrics. They're so catchy. They are just something that I can relate to. That's my pick for right now, Adam.
Hey, that was good. And I feel like I should call you every morning and ask you, because I might get a different answer based on what happened the day before. I wrote down Old Dominion. I've never heard of that band. I couldn't tell you one song. I'm going to look them up and know a few songs by dinner time today, though.
Go look them up, man. Their lyrics are so like, I keep saying catchy. I can't think of a better word. Check them out.
Hey, and there's times in my week I go to country also. So I'm right there with you sometimes. All right.
Okay.
So moving forward, and this could be a tough one. Do you have an all-time favorite song that you just think about, or songs? Sometimes it's hard to pick one. And then is there a concert that, I know you mentioned Old Dominion was a big concert. Is there another big concert like in your life that you were like, wow?
Okay. The concert one's easy. So can I answer that one first?
Absolutely.
So I went to Okay, good, man. I went to Coldplay up in Minneapolis. It's about a 5-hour drive from here. Man, I love their music, but they put on a show. They put on a great show. Had great tickets, real close, had a chance to, the really cool thing is they have different stages set up. So you might be far away during one set, but then you're like really close to them during the next set. So I was like literally 20 feet away from them. I mean, they've been around forever. They were big in college 20 years ago. But they have a way of like bringing the crowd. The crowd it's like a show. It's like it's just, concerts have come so far where you've got like so much going on. It's not just the music. There's all kinds of just lights but it was just so cool. If they tour again, which I think, I'm sure they will, I'm all over it. I'm going to go to multiple. I don't care what the cost is. I'm going to go make it happen.
Okay.
So Coldplay would be my favorite concert. My favorite, I love these questions, man. My favorite all-time song. Oh man, that is so tough. I'm going to pull up my Spotify real quick. So I'm going to go a little hip hop here. I'm going to go black. It's a song for multiple reasons. I'm going to go, and again, this could change next week. I'm going to go the song Black and Yellow by Wiz Khalifa. Okay. So, and then there's some words in there for people listening. I'm not taking ownership of the words he uses, okay? Because do not say that Jared Smith, there's a few words in there I'm not agreeing with, okay? But it came out like in the late 2000s, and for a few reasons. One, it's a catchy song. It pumps you up. It's just got a great beat. And I'm an Iowa football fan. Here in Iowa, you live and die by the Hawkeyes. We're ranked number 2 in the nation. That is like when you go to any of their games, they play that song as well, because we have the black and yellow. Like that's our uniform color. It's black and yellow, right? So not only do I like this song, not only is it catchy, not only is it a great workout song, not only everything else, then when you've got it tied to like games that you go to or things that you attend and you hear that song there, it's like, it's a full circle type thing. So that's the song I'm going to pick right now. Speaking of recency bias, I was at the Iowa Penn State game last weekend, 3-4, and Iowa won. And that song was blasting in the stadium with 70,000 crazy fans. So that's my pick for right now, Adam.
I love it. You are stretching and expanding my music knowledge right now. I wrote down Black and Yellow. I'm gonna check it out. And I'm right with you on Coldplay. When I get to the office every morning at 6 o'clock, I pick a greatest hits. Coldplay was my greatest hits last Wednesday, so it's fresh in my head. And I don't blast it, so it interferes with your work. Just nice background greatest hits rock playing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, great background music.
So our last question, I gave you a choice of who was a more successful, more impactful band, in your opinion, Van Halen with David Lee Roth or Van Halen with Sammy Hagar? That was question 1. Or you could have picked question 2. Who was the most impactful 3-person band, in your opinion? You can't be wrong. Rush or the Police? And you picked who was the most impactful 3-person band, Rush or the Police? Take it away.
So okay, man, when you're throwing those bands around, I'll be honest, I am not an expert. I am not an expert at these bands. However, I grew up with the Police, man. There was always and I know Police turned into Sting. I know this, and I'm not exactly sure, whose songs are whose, but I feel like there's always the Police. There was always music being played. I'm looking at some of their songs, like Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic. Every Breath You Take. There's just so many like Police songs that when I hear them come on the radio, or you can listen to them anytime. Like I know those songs. They're catchy. They remind me of my childhood. I don't know much about Rush. Is Rush a Canadian band? Am I right on that?
That's a great start right there.
Okay. The only reason I know Rush, Adam, is there's a show, and I'm going way off topic here. There's a show called Trailer Park Boys on Netflix, and it's a very funny show. Again, I do not condone some of the things they do on that show, but they have this infatuation with Rush because it's a Canadian-based show, and they love Rush, and their goal is to meet Rush. So I have listened to some of their songs, and I know there's one that is incredibly catchy. They're probably their most well-known song. You would probably know it. I don't know off the top of my head. But I would have to go with Police just based on my growing up, my knowing their songs, my loving their songs. For years, the Police have had some amazing songs.
Dr. Smith, that's a great answer. And that's why I wanted to give you 2 choices, because I didn't know which way you want to go. And all I can say is I'm glad I'm asking those questions because they're tough ones, and I would not want to be the one to answer them. But how about Monday, so we can connect? You and I in our offices go with Rush's greatest hits. And then Tuesday we go with the Police's greatest hits.
Ooh.
So we can feel that connection. That's a great start to the week.
I like it. You know the song I know, Tom Sawyer. Who doesn't know Tom Sawyer by Rush? That's the one I know. I'll leave it at that. But I like that. I will check out Rush's greatest hits.
Okay. Tom Sawyer and The Working Man are probably the 2 most famous across the board if you're not a diehard Rush fan. All right. As we wrap up, this has been great. We need to do it again. But Dr. Smith, if someone would want to contact you to get advice, they have questions, they want to read your blogs, they want to purchase your book, they want to call you and listen to Coldplay, whatever they want to do, how do we get a hold of you to get this great stuff that you have?
Okay. I would say, the way you listed off the book, the blog, I would go to my website, which is drjaredsmith.com. drjaredsmith.com. It's actually, I've been working with a website developer. It's updated. It's looking nice and fresh. Check it out, because you can actually subscribe to my newsletter by just going there. You can buy the book. But outside of my website, I'm pretty active on Twitter. And my Twitter name it's Jared Smith PhD. Jared Smith PhD on Twitter. So either of those spots, I'm pretty active on everything on Facebook, Instagram. Just look for Jared Smith PhD or Dr. Jared Smith, and you'll find me for sure. And
what I want to do is I want to challenge everybody. And I know there's tough decisions to make out there. I know every day can be different, but you make the best decision possible given what you know at that very moment, and you continue to seek information to improve that process. And that's all you can do every day, over and over and over again. So, Dr. Smith, I thank you. This has been Adam Lane with Leading Lane. This was episode 2 on the Leading Lane podcast with Dr. Jared Smith, featuring productive relationships. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen.